The issue at hand is the current situation in Finland, where the country finds itself in a precarious position with its recent entrance into NATO. With Putin's reckless moves and the enemy's weapon in close proximity, the risk of confrontation and danger to Finland's borders looms large. It's worth noting that Finland, a country that has remained neutral for years, has completed all the necessary preparations, making it the most well-equipped nation on the borders of the Russian Bear. The country's shelters are ready, and its army is rearranged, while its people are trained to shoot, all in anticipation of potential threats from Russia. Despite its neutrality, Finland has been caught in the midst of all the conflicts in the region, making it a key player in the struggle for power. Russia has invaded and attacked many times, leaving Finland in a difficult position, but the country has managed to stay on the fence whenever possible. However, the recent decision to join NATO has turned the tables, and Finland now finds itself part of the powerful alliance, despite being a stone's throw away from conflicts and wars. This move comes as a surprise to many given Finland's history as part of the Russian Empire and the Kingdom of Sweden. The story of Finland's journey from the Russian Empire to the bosom of NATO is a long and complicated one, marked by hostility, neutrality, and war. It's a tale that begins centuries ago when Finland was part of the Kingdom of Sweden, considered a vital area in terms of economy and defense. It was during this period that Finland witnessed a flourishing of art and culture, with many important landmarks erected. The Swedish history of Finland dates back to the Middle Ages, when Finland was part of the full campaign extending from the northern Atlas to the Baltic countries. The colony of Viborg was founded on the western coast of Finland in the 12th century, quickly becoming a center for commerce, culture, and administration. By the 13th century, the Swedish king had made Finland the seat of government in the north, cementing the Swedes' power over Finland until the 17th century, when Finland revolted against Sweden. After a 2-year war, Finland succeeded in declaring its independence in 1809, becoming part of the Russian Empire. Despite being part of the empire, Finland maintained its autonomy and Finnish culture, with the Finnish language introduced alongside the Russian language as official languages in 1863. This linguistic system has been preserved to this day, with Finnish being used in all official institutions in Finland. During the period of autonomy in the Russian Empire, Finland experienced significant cultural and social developments, with many important buildings built, such as the famous Helsinki Palace and the Russian Orthodox Ouspensky Church. The paper and wood industries also grew substantially, becoming an essential center of the Russian economy. However, in 1917, the Russian Revolution broke out and Helsinki declared its independence again, becoming an independent republic. Despite this newfound freedom, Finland has faced numerous challenges and conflicts, especially with its proximity to Russia. The historical trajectory of Finland has been shaped by a multitude of significant events, each leaving its own unique mark on the country's development. A crucial aspect to consider when analyzing these historical events is the degree of perplexity and burstiness present in the language used to describe them. One such event that had a profound impact on Finland was the civil war that erupted in the year 1918 following the country's independence from Russia. The war, which lasted for a period of approximately 4 months, was fought between the Whig forces and the leftist forces of the country. The right wing was represented by the bourgeoisie, military, and conservatives, while the left wing was composed of workers, communists, and socialists. The conflict resulted in the victory of the right-wing forces, with many leftist and communist activists being arrested and executed. The use of violence and torture against civilians suspected of supporting the left was rampant. The war left in its wake significant destruction of cities and rural areas in Finland, leading to the displacement of many people. The use of modern weapons and technologies, including tanks and planes, was a characteristic feature of the war. The Civil War played a pivotal role in transforming Finland into a capitalist country with a strong emphasis on industrial development and the capitalist economy. It remains one of the most significant events in Finnish history, shaping the country's trajectory and societal development. The aftermath of the Civil War also played a significant role in shaping Finland's relationship with the Soviet Union during World War I. Finland, despite being adjacent to the Soviet Union, managed to maintain its independence from the Soviet Union while being dependent on it for trade and supplies. During the war, Finland joined Germany as an ally and achieved important victories over the Soviet Union in the Continuation War, gaining control over disputed border areas. However, with the development of the war in favor of the Allies, Finland was forced to hold talks with the Soviet Union in 1944, resulting in a ceasefire agreement. Finland was compelled to hand over some border areas to the Soviet Union and compensated for the losses it suffered during the war. The loss of some borderlands to the Soviets was a severe setback for the newly formed Finnish state, which had attempted to control Soviet lands through the war. It was also a blow to its aspirations of becoming an influential country on the world stage. Finland underwent a shift in its foreign policy during the Cold War, adopting a policy of neutrality with all major countries. The threat from the Soviet Union increased after Finland signed a joint defense agreement with the United States in 1948, leading to economic sanctions and increased political pressure from the Soviet Union. Finland signed the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation with the Soviet Union in 1956. Which defined the relations between the two countries and set limits on political and economic cooperation. The Helsinki Agreement for European Security was signed in 1975, defining the limits of political and military influence of European states. Since then, Finland has actively participated in many significant international events, including the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development in Helsinki in 1962 and the United Nations Environment Conference in Helsinki in 1989. Despite the accession of many European countries to NATO, founded in 1949, Finland refused to join the alliance and declared neutrality, which was shared by Sweden at that time. Both countries decided to work with all countries equally, without discrimination, and stay away from global political and military differences, continuing throughout the entire Cold War until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Finland modernized its foreign policy, increased its international relations, and focused on economic cooperation with the world, particularly European countries. In 1995, it joined the European Union, and in 1999, it became part of the Eurozone, an important economic partner on the continent. However, it remained outside NATO and had not previously attempted to join it, despite its challenging military history. The Finnish army was established in 1918 and has witnessed many wars and conflicts throughout its history. The most prominent of these wars is the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union in 1939-1940. The Finnish army responded bravely to the Soviet attack and achieved important victories, despite suffering from a shortage of weapons and equipment. Currently, the Finnish army consists of tens of thousands of soldiers and can be reinforced by more soldiers through the military reserve during emergencies. The Finnish army also has forces specializing in areas such as reconnaissance, special operations, and air defense, and it has a good reputation in the field of defense and security. Finland participates in many military exercises with NATO and non-NATO countries to improve cooperation and coordination between countries in the field of security and defense. Several factors help Finland face any attack against it and make it an attractive potential NATO member. Firstly, its readiness for war. Helsinki has an entire city underground capable of accommodating 900,000 people, complete with schools, hospitals, and parks, making it almost completely safe in the event of nuclear, biological, or chemical attacks. Secondly, the majority of Finns are trained in shooting and engaging in battles, and they keep weapons in their homes, most of which are officially licensed by the state. Finally, Finland has a long border with Russia, almost 1,300 kilometers, which is hostile to the West today, making it the first line of confrontation with Moscow, like Poland and Ukraine. It is also a strategic and central point for NATO in the Baltic Sea, which Russia considers an important, articulated gateway to it, a region for which global and nuclear wars may ignite. The journey of Finland from the Russian Empire to modern times has been a complex and convoluted one, marked by various twists and turns. However, The recent decision of Finland to join NATO has raised eyebrows and sparked a flurry of speculation and analysis. The context for this decision can be traced back to February of the previous year, when Vladimir Putin unleashed a war on Ukraine that shook Europe to its core. The repercussions of this war were felt in several domains, with the security and defense of the region being a major concern. In particular, there was anxiety about the possibility of a new invasion, with Finland being seen as a likely target due to its history of conflict with Russia. As a member of the European Union, Finland was seen as a potential gateway to a wider conflict, with neighboring Sweden also being vulnerable. Both countries had expressed their support for Ukraine and had even provided it with financial and military aid, making them part of the growing alliance of enemies of Moscow. However, the decision to join NATO was not an easy one, with popular demands for membership adding to the tension. Both Finland and Sweden applied to join the alliance, but Turkey initially posed an obstacle by setting conditions for their accession. Eventually, Helsinki managed to secure Ankara's approval, paving the way for its entry into NATO. The process of joining the alliance involved a series of steps, with the parliaments of the member states voting on Finland's request and the Secretary General of NATO being informed of the unanimous decision. Finally, on the 4th of January in the year 2023, the Finnish flag was raised at NATO headquarters in Brussels, marking its official entry into the powerful Western alliance. For Finland, this decision represented a strategic move to counter the growing threat from Russia and to ensure its security and stability in an uncertain geopolitical landscape. Its history of conflict with Moscow had left a deep imprint on its psyche, and the current situation had made it clear that the time for peace was over. With NATO by its side, Finland could now face the future with greater confidence and resolve, knowing that it had the backing of a powerful alliance that was committed to its defense. For Russia, however, the situation had become more challenging, with the prospect of a new conflict looming on the horizon. The question now is whether it will choose to engage in a grinding war or to maintain a fragile silence before the storm.
Don't forget to subscribe, guys.